My name is Gloria Jean Mitchell and I am 62 years old. For 40 years I worked as a high school English teacher in Atlanta, Georgia. I raised 3 children. I cooked thousands of meals, I washed mountains of laundry. I supported my husband through every dream he ever had, and for all of that he laughed at me. He laughed at me when I needed him most. He called me worthless. He called my grandmother's gift to me garbage. But let me tell you something. 48 hours after that laugh I was sitting in a private jet. I had a glass of champagne in my hand. I was flying first class to Paris, France. And my husband, he was standing in our driveway, watching that jet fly over his head with his mouth hanging open like a fish out of water. How did I get from being laughed at to living like a queen? Well, honey, that is a story you need to hear. Because sometimes the people who love you the least are the ones living in your own house. And sometimes the people who loved you the most leave you gifts that change everything. But here is the thing. When I was sitting on that jet looking down at the clouds, I was not just thinking about Paris. I was thinking about revenge. Sweet, cold, perfect revenge. And the best part, my husband had no idea what was coming for him. He thought I was just a tired old woman with a box of junk. He thought wrong. Now, before I tell you how this all happened, I want to know something. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city and state in the comments below. I love hearing from all of you. And if you enjoy stories about people getting exactly what they deserve, make sure you hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story. Trust me, you are going to want to hear how this ends. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you how a box of old papers turned my whole life upside down. And let me tell you about the man I married, and the day I finally saw who he really was. It all started on a Tuesday morning in March. The weather was grey and cold, the kind of day that makes your bones ache. I had just come home from my mother's funeral. Yes, my sweet mama had passed away at 89 years old. She went peacefully in her sleep, which was a blessing, but losing her felt like losing a part of my own soul. My mama was everything to me. She raised me alone after my daddy left when I was just 3 years old. She worked 2 jobs to keep food on our table. She made sure I went to college. She taught me how to be strong, how to be kind, and how to never let anyone make me feel small. For the last 10 years of her life, she lived in a small nursing home about 2 hours from Atlanta. I visited her every single weekend. Every Saturday morning I would get in my old Honda and drive to see her. I would bring her favorite foods: fried chicken, collard greens, sweet potato pie. We would sit together and talk for hours. She would tell me stories about her childhood in Mississippi. She would ask about my students. She would hold my hand and tell me she was proud of me. My husband, Raymond, never came with me, not once in 10 years. He always had an excuse: his back hurt, he had work to do, the drive was too long. After a while I stopped asking. It was easier that way. When Mama passed, Raymond did come to the funeral, but he complained the whole time. He complained about the long church service. He complained about having to wear a suit. He complained about my relatives staying at our house. The day we buried my mother, my husband complained about the food at the repast. I should have known then, I should have seen the signs, but I had been married to Raymond for 38 years. I had made excuses for him my whole life. He is just tired, I would tell myself. He is just stressed about work. He does not mean it. But he did mean it, every cold word, every cruel comment. He meant all of it. The day after the funeral, the lawyer called. My mother had left a will, and I needed to come to his office. Raymond wanted to come with me, which surprised me. He had never shown any interest in my mother's affairs before. We drove to the lawyer's office downtown. It was a small, old building with creaky floors and dusty windows. The lawyer, Mr. Patterson, was a kind man with grey hair and gentle eyes. He had known my mother for 30 years. We sat down in his office, and Mr. Patterson read the will. My mother had left me her small savings account, which had about $12,000 in it. She left me her jewellery, which was not worth much money but meant the world to me. And she left me something else. Your mother also left you a box, Mr. Patterson said. She was very specific about this. She said you would know what to do with it when the time was right. He handed me an old cardboard box. It was about the size of a shoebox, wrapped in brown paper and tied with string. My name was written on top in my mother's shaky handwriting. Raymond leaned over to look at it. What is in there? He asked. I do not know, I said. She never mentioned it to me. Well, open it, Raymond said. Let us see what the old lady left you. I did not like the way he said that. The old lady. Like my mother was nobody, like she was just a problem that was finally gone. But I held my tongue. I always held my tongue. I carefully untied the string and opened the box. Inside there were papers, old, yellowed papers covered in handwriting I did not recognize. There were letters, too. And at the very bottom there was a small leather journal. It looked ancient. The leather was cracked and faded. The pages were brown with age. Raymond picked up one of the papers and squinted at it. "What is this junk?" he asked. "Old letters, who cares about old letters?" "Raymond, please," I said quietly. He dropped the paper back in the box like it was dirty. "Your mama left you $12,000 and a box of garbage. Great, that is just great. I thought maybe she had something valuable hidden away. But no, just more worthless junk from your worthless family." My heart cracked in that moment, right there in the lawyer's office. I felt something break inside my chest, not because of what he said about the box, but because of what he said about my family, about my mama, about me. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. He looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Mitchell, your mother was very insistent that you keep this box safe. She said the contents were more valuable than they appeared." Raymond laughed, a mean, ugly laugh. "Valuable, a bunch of old papers. Come on, Gloria, your mother was losing her mind at the end. Everyone knows that. This box is garbage. Throw it away and let us go home." I looked at Raymond, really looked at him. And for the first time in 38 years I saw him clearly. I saw the cruelty in his eyes. I saw the disrespect in his smile. I saw a man who had never loved me. A man who had only used me. A man who was waiting for something from my mother's death. Something he could benefit from. And now that there was nothing for him, he was angry. "I am keeping the box," I said quietly. "What? Why? It is worthless, Gloria, just like everything else in your family." I stood up, my hands were shaking. My voice was shaking too, but I stood up anyway. "We are leaving now," I said. "Thank you, Mr. Patterson." The drive home was silent. Raymond turned on the radio loud so we would not have to talk. That was fine with me. I did not want to talk to him. I just held that box in my lap and thought about my mama. I thought about her words. "You will know what to do with it when the time is right." When we got home, I went straight to my bedroom. I put the box in my closet behind some old blankets where Raymond would never look. He never cleaned anything. He would never find it there. That night, I waited until Raymond was asleep. He always fell asleep in front of the television, snoring like a freight train. I crept into the closet and pulled out the box. I sat on the floor with a small flashlight and started to look through the papers. Most of them were letters. Old love letters, it seemed, written in beautiful handwriting. They were addressed to someone named Josephine. That was my grandmother's name. My mama's mama. She passed away when I was just a little girl, but I remembered her. I remembered her warm hugs and her soft singing voice. I started to read the letters. They were from a man named William. He wrote about his love for Josephine. He wrote about his dreams for their future. He wrote about a piece of land he had bought for them. Land where they would build a home and raise a family together. My heart started to beat faster. Land, my grandmother had owned land. I dug deeper into the box. I found more papers. Legal papers, deeds, documents with official stamps and signatures. My hands were shaking as I read them. And then I found it, a deed, a real estate deed from 1952. It was for a piece of property in Mississippi. The deed was in my grandmother Josephine's name, and attached to it was a note in my mother's handwriting. The note said, "Baby girl, this land has been in our family for over 70 years. No one knows about it but us. Your grandmother made me promise to keep it secret until the time was right. Companies have been trying to buy it for decades. I never sold because I knew someday you might need it. The land is yours now. Find out what it is worth. And Gloria, baby, whatever you do, do not tell Raymond. Trust me on this. Love, Mama." My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the paper. Land, my grandmother had left us land. Land that companies wanted to buy. Land that might be worth something. But worth how much? I had to find out, but Mama was right. I could not tell Raymond, not yet, maybe not ever. I put everything back in the box and hid it again. Then I lay down in bed next to my snoring husband and stared at the ceiling. My mind was racing. What was this land? Where exactly was it? And why had my grandmother kept it such a secret? The next morning I woke up early. Raymond was still sleeping. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I had copied down the address from the deed. It was a rural area in Mississippi, near a town I had never heard of. I typed the address into Google Maps. The little red pin dropped onto the screen, and what I saw made me gasp out loud. The land was right next to a huge development, a brand new industrial complex. There were warehouses, factories, and parking lots all around it, but right in the middle, like a little island, was a large piece of green land, undeveloped, untouched, surrounded on all sides by this massive complex. I zoomed in closer. The piece of land was not small. It looked like it could be 20 or 30 acres at least, and it was sitting right in the middle of what looked like $1 billion development. My heart was pounding. I needed more information. I needed to know who owned that development. I needed to know why they had built all around my grandmother's land instead of on it. I searched online for hours. I found news articles about the development. It was owned by a company called Meridian Industrial Group. They had been building in that area for years. The complex was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It served major shipping routes and was one of the biggest industrial hubs in the southeast. And right in the middle of it sat my grandmother's land they had never been able to buy. I found an old newspaper article from 15 years ago. The headline said, "Meridian unable to acquire key parcel, development plans adjusted." I read the article with my heart in my throat. It said that Meridian had tried for years to buy a 32-acre parcel in the center of their planned development. But the owner, listed only as the heirs of Josephine Carter, had never responded to their offers. The company had been forced to build around the land, creating what they called a significant operational inconvenience. The article quoted a Meridian executive. He said they had offered $2 million for the land 10 years ago. The offer had never been accepted because they could not find the owners. $2 million 10 years ago. What was it worth now? I felt dizzy. I felt like the whole world was spinning. My grandmother, who had picked cotton as a child, who had worked as a maid her whole life, had owned land worth millions of dollars. And she had kept it secret all these years. She had protected it. She had passed it down to my mother, who had passed it down to me. And Raymond thought it was garbage. I closed my laptop just as I heard Raymond's footsteps coming down the hall. He walked into the kitchen, scratching his belly and yawning. "What are you doing up so early?" he asked. "Just having coffee," I said, "thinking about Mama." He grunted, "You need to stop mopping around. She was old, she died, it happens, get over it." I looked at him, this man I had given my whole life to, this man who had never loved me, this man who had called my mother worthless, who had called my inheritance garbage. "I am going to visit my aunt in Jackson for a few days," I said. "I need to be with family right now." Raymond shrugged. "Fine, whatever, I have a golf trip this weekend anyway, do what you want." Do what I want? For the first time in 38 years, that was exactly what I planned to do. I went upstairs and started to pack. But I was not going to visit my aunt. I was going to Mississippi. I was going to find that land. And I was going to find out exactly what my grandmother had left me. As I packed my suitcase, my phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I did not recognize. I opened it and read the message. It said, "Mrs. Mitchell, we understand you may have recently inherited property in Coldwater County, Mississippi. Meridian Industrial Group would like to discuss a purchase offer. Please contact us at your earliest convenience. This is a time-sensitive matter." I stared at the phone. They already knew. Somehow they already knew that my mother had died and that the land was now mine. How was that possible? Who had told them? And more importantly, what did they want badly enough to contact me before my mother was even cold in the ground? I looked out the window at Raymond loading his golf clubs into his car. He waved goodbye without even looking back at the house, without even saying goodbye to me. I deleted the text message. I was not ready to talk to anyone yet. First, I needed to see this land for myself. First, I needed to understand what I was dealing with. And first, I needed to make sure that nobody, especially not Raymond, found out what I was planning. Because in that moment, sitting on my bed with my suitcase half-packed, I made a decision. If this land was worth what I thought it was worth, I was not going to share it with a man who had laughed at me. I was not going to give anything to a man who had called my family worthless. I was going to take what my grandmother left me, and I was going to build a new life. A life without cruelty. A life without disrespect. A life where I finally got to choose what happened next. But I had no idea that things were about to get much more complicated. Because as I was making my plans, someone else was making plans too. Someone who knew about the land. Someone who would do anything to get their hands on it. And that someone was closer to me than I ever imagined. I drove to Mississippi the next morning. The sun was just coming up when I pulled out of the driveway. Raymond was still asleep. He did not even know I was leaving. I had left a note on the kitchen counter saying I would be back in a few days. I did not say where I was going. He would not care anyway. The drive was long, almost 6 hours on the highway, but I did not mind. It gave me time to think, time to remember my mama, time to wonder about this mysterious land that my grandmother had kept secret for so many years. Why had she never told anyone? Why had she never sold it, even when companies were offering millions of dollars? What was so special about this piece of ground in Mississippi? I thought about my grandmother Josephine. I only had a few memories of her. She died when I was 7 years old, but I remembered her hands, strong, rough hands from years of hard work. I remembered her voice, deep and warm like honey, and I remembered something she used to say to me. "Baby girl," she would say, "the ground beneath your feet is the only thing that cannot be taken from you. Money comes and goes, people leave, but land stays forever, remember that." I never understood what she meant, until now. I arrived in Coldwater County around noon. It was a small, rural area. Flat fields stretched out in every direction. Old farmhouses sat back from the road. Everything looked quiet and peaceful. But as I got closer to the address on the deed, things started to change. The old farmhouses disappeared. In their place came huge warehouses, giant parking lots filled with trucks, buildings the size of football fields. This was the Meridian Industrial Complex, and it was enormous. I drove slowly along the main road, looking for the piece of land that belonged to my family. And then I saw it. Right in the middle of all these massive buildings, there was a patch of green. Trees, grass, wild flowers. It looked like someone had cut a hole in the middle of all this concrete and steel and left a piece of nature behind. There was a chain-link fence around it, old and rusty but still standing. A sign on the fence said "Private property, no trespassing." I pulled my car over to the side of the road and got out. The air smelled like diesel fuel and hot asphalt. Trucks rumbled past me on the road, but beyond that fence I could hear birds singing. I walked up to the fence and wrapped my fingers around the chain link. I looked at the land inside. My land. My grandmother's land. 32 acres of Mississippi soil that had been in my family for over 70 years. Tears started rolling down my cheeks. I could not stop them. I thought about my grandmother, working as a maid, saving every penny she could. I thought about her buying this land when black folks were not supposed to own anything. I thought about her keeping it secret, protecting it, passing it down through generations. And I thought about Raymond, calling it worthless garbage. "You were wrong, Raymond," I whispered. "You were so wrong." I stood there for a long time, just looking at the land. Then I got back in my car and drove to the nearest town. I needed to find a lawyer. I needed to find out exactly what my rights were. And I needed to find out how much this land was really worth. The town was called Millbrook. It was a small place with one main street. There was a diner, a hardware store, a church, and a small law office. The sign outside the law office said Henderson and Associates, Real Estate Law. I parked my car and went inside. The office was small but clean. A young woman sat at the front desk. She looked up when I walked in. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I need to speak with a lawyer," I said. "It is about some land I inherited." The young woman nodded and picked up her phone. A few minutes later, a man came out from the back office. He was about my age, with grey hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I am Robert Henderson," he said, shaking my hand. "How can I help you, ma'am?" I told him everything. About my mother passing away, about the box she left me, about the deed to the land, about the text message from Meridian Industrial Group. Mr. Henderson listened carefully. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said, "do you have any idea what that land is worth?" "I found an article that said Meridian offered $2 million for it 10 years ago, I said. Mr. Henderson shook his head. "That was 10 years ago, before the full development was built, before the new highway went in, before the shipping contracts with the big retailers." He paused. He looked at me very seriously. "Mrs. Mitchell, based on what I know about that area, your 32 acres could be worth somewhere between $20 and $30 million today." I could not breathe. I could not speak. I just sat there staring at him, feeling like I was going to fall out of my chair. $20 million, I finally managed to say. "Maybe more," Mr. Henderson said. That land is the only piece of property that Meridian does not own in their entire complex. They have had to build their roads around it. They have had to reroute their truck traffic. They have had to adjust their entire operation because of those 32 acres. They have been trying to buy it for decades. And now that you are the legal owner, they are going to come at you hard. What do you mean, come at me hard? I asked. Mr. Henderson leaned forward. Meridian is a powerful company. They have a lot of money and a lot of lawyers. They are going to try to pressure you into selling. They are going to make you offers that sound generous but are actually way below what the land is worth. They might even try to find legal loopholes to take the land from you. My heart was pounding. Can they do that? Can they take my land? Not if the deed is valid and the title is clear, he said. Which is the first thing we need to check. Do you have the deed with you? I nodded and pulled it out of my purse. I had brought all the important papers with me. Mr. Henderson looked at the deed carefully. He examined every word, every signature, every stamp. This looks legitimate, he said, but I would need to do a full title search to make sure there are no other claims on the property. That could take a few days. Please do it, I said. I need to know that this is real. Mr. Henderson nodded. I will start today. In the meantime, do not talk to anyone from Meridian, do not sign anything, do not agree to anything. And Mrs. Mitchell. Yes. Be very careful who you tell about this. $20 million is a lot of money. It can make people do strange things. I thought about Raymond. I thought about how he had looked at that box of papers like it was trash. I thought about how he had laughed at me. I understand, I said. I will be careful. I left Mr. Henderson's office and walked back to my car. My head was spinning. $20 million. Maybe more. I could not even imagine that much money. I had been a school teacher my whole life. I had never made more than $60,000 a year. And now I was sitting on a fortune. I checked into a small motel just outside of town. It was not fancy, but it was clean and quiet. I sat on the bed and called my daughter, Denise. She was my youngest child and we had always been close. Mama, she answered, is everything okay? Daddy said you went to visit Aunt Ruth. I am fine, baby, I said, but I need to tell you something, and I need you to promise me you will not tell your father. There was a pause. Mama, what is going on? I told her everything, about the box, about the land, about what the lawyer had told me. When I finished, Denise was silent for a long time. $20 million, she finally whispered. Mama, are you serious? That is what the lawyer said, maybe more. Oh my God, Mama, oh my God. I know, baby, I know. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath. I do not know yet, but I know one thing. Your father cannot find out, not until I figure out what to do. Why not? Denise asked, then she was quiet for a moment. Actually, never mind, I know why not. My children had seen how Raymond treated me over the years. They had seen his coldness, his cruelty, his disrespect. Denise understood better than anyone. Mama, she said, whatever you decide to do, I am behind you 100%. You deserve this. Grandma wanted you to have it, and Daddy does not deserve a penny of it. Tears filled my eyes. Thank you, baby, I love you. I love you too, Mama, be safe out there. I hung up the phone and lay back on the motel bed. I stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. Yesterday, I was a retired school teacher with a modest savings account and a husband who did not love me. Today, I might be worth more than $20 million. But as I was lying there, my phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. This one said, Mrs. Mitchell, we have information regarding your husband's activities that you may find very interesting. Meet us tomorrow at noon at the Millbrook Diner. Come alone. I sat up straight. My husband's activities. What did that mean? What did Raymond have to do with any of this? I read the message again and again. My hands were trembling. Something was very wrong here. Someone knew where I was, someone knew about the land, and someone knew something about Raymond that they thought I should know. I barely slept that night. I tossed and turned, my mind racing with questions. Who had sent that message? What did they know about Raymond? Was I in danger? The next morning I got up early and drove to the Millbrook Diner. It was a small place with red vinyl booths and a counter with spinning stools. It smelled like bacon and coffee. A few old men sat at the counter, reading newspapers. A waitress with tired eyes poured coffee into heavy ceramic mugs. I chose a booth in the back corner where I could see the door. I ordered coffee and waited. At exactly noon, the door opened. A woman walked in. She was about my age, maybe a little younger. She had smooth brown skin and silver hair cut short. She wore a nice business suit and carried a leather briefcase. She looked around the diner, spotted me and walked over. "Mrs. Mitchell," she asked. "Who are you?" I replied. She sat down across from me. "My name is Patricia Williams. I am a private investigator. I have been hired to look into some matters related to your husband." "Hired by who?" I asked. "I am not at liberty to say. But trust me, Mrs. Mitchell, you are going to want to hear what I have to tell you." My heart was pounding. "What do you know about Raymond?" Patricia opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. She placed it on the table in front of me. "Your husband, Raymond Mitchell, has been having an affair for the past 7 years. Her name is Cheryl Brooks. She is 43 years old. She works as a real estate agent in Atlanta." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. 7 years, 7 years of lies. "There is more," Patricia said quietly. "Raymond has been moving money out of your joint accounts into a separate account that Cheryl has access to. Over the past 7 years, he has transferred almost $200,000 to that account." My head was spinning. $200,000, that was almost all of our savings. That was my retirement. That was the money I had worked for my entire life. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. My voice was shaking. "Because you need to know who you are dealing with," Patricia said. "Raymond Mitchell is not just a cheating husband. He is a man who has been planning to leave you for years. He has been waiting for the right time. And now that your mother has passed away, he thinks that time has come." "What do you mean?" Patricia leaned closer. "Your husband thinks that your mother left you something valuable. He does not know what it is, but he suspects. He has been making calls, Mrs. Mitchell. He has been asking questions. He is trying to find out exactly what you inherited." My blood ran cold. Raymond knew something. He was looking for the land. "But how?" I whispered. "I never told him anything." "He found the deed," Patricia said. "While you were at the lawyer's office the other day, he went through your things. He found the copy you made and put in your suitcase. He knows about the land in Mississippi. He knows it might be valuable. And he has already contacted Meridian Industrial Group." I could not believe what I was hearing. Raymond had gone through my things. He had found my papers. He had contacted Meridian behind my back. "What is he planning?" I asked. "I do not know all the details," Patricia said. "But I know he is working with someone at Meridian. They are trying to find a way to claim that land before you can. They think they have found a loophole in the deed." "A loophole? What kind of loopholes?" Patricia shook her head. "I do not know yet, but I am working on finding out. In the meantime, you need to be very careful. Your husband is not who you think he is, Mrs. Mitchell. He never was." I sat there in that diner booth, feeling like my whole world was crumbling around me. My husband was cheating on me. He had stolen my money. And now he was trying to steal my land too. But then something happened inside me, something shifted. The sadness and shock started to melt away, and in its place came something harder, something colder. Anger. Pure burning anger. I looked at Patricia Williams. "What do I need to do?" Patricia smiled. It was a small smile, but it was filled with understanding. "First, you need to protect that land. Get Mr. Henderson to fast-track the title search. Make sure everything is in order. Second, you need to separate your finances from Raymond immediately. Open a new bank account in your name only. Third, you need to start documenting everything. Every lie he has told you. Every dollar he has stolen. Everything." "And then what?" I asked. Patricia's smile grew wider. "And then, Mrs. Mitchell, you are going to take back everything that belongs to you, and you are going to make Raymond Mitchell wish he had never laughed at you." I felt something light up inside my chest. For the first time in 40 years, I felt powerful. I felt strong. I felt like I could do anything. "I am ready," I said. "Tell me what to do." Patricia nodded. "Good, because we do not have much time. Raymond is meeting with someone from Meridian tomorrow morning. They think they have found a way to invalidate your claim to the land, something about the original deed being improperly filed." "Can they do that?" I asked. "Not if we move fast enough. Mr. Henderson needs to file the proper paperwork today. Once the title is officially transferred to your name, they cannot touch it." I grabbed my phone and called Mr. Henderson immediately. I told him what Patricia had told me. I told him about Raymond and Meridian working together. Mr. Henderson was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Mrs. Mitchell, come to my office right now. We need to handle this today." I hung up the phone and looked at Patricia. "Thank you," I said. "I do not know why you are helping me, but thank you." Patricia reached across the table and put her hand on mine. "Let us just say I have seen men like Raymond destroy too many good women. It is time for that to stop." I left the diner and drove straight to Mr. Henderson's office. For the next 4 hours, we worked together to file every piece of paperwork needed to secure my claim to the land. Mr. Henderson made calls to the county clerk's office. He sent documents by fax and email. He worked faster than I had ever seen anyone work before. By 6 o'clock that evening it was done. The title to the 32 acres in Coldwater County was officially in my name, Gloria Jean Mitchell, sole owner. No one could take it from me now, not Meridians, not Raymond, no one. I sat in Mr. Henderson's office, holding the official documents in my hands. I could barely believe it was real. "What happens now?" I asked. Mr. Henderson leaned back in his chair. "Now you decide what you want to do. You can sell the land to Meridian for whatever price you negotiate. You can hold on to it and let them keep paying you for easements and access rights, or you can develop it yourself." "How much would Meridian pay for it now?" I asked. "If I had to guess, they would probably start by offering you $15 million, but that land is worth more to them than almost anything else. Without it, their entire operation has a hole in the middle. They need it desperately. You could probably negotiate them up to $30 million, maybe more." $30 million, the number did not even seem real. My phone rang, it was Raymond. I stared at his name on the screen. I thought about all the years of coldness and disrespect. I thought about the affair. I thought about the stolen money. I thought about him going through my things and calling Meridian behind my back. I let the call go to voicemail. A few seconds later, a text came through. "Where are you? I thought you were coming home today. We need to talk about something important." I typed back a simple response, "Still with family, will be home in a few days." Then I turned off my phone. I was not ready to face Raymond yet. First, I had more work to do. First, I had to make sure that when I finally confronted him, I would be holding all the cards. "Mr. Henderson," I said, "I need you to do something else for me. I need you to find out everything about Raymond's affair. Everything about the money he stole from me. And I need you to find out exactly what he was planning with Meridian." Mr. Henderson nodded. "I know a few people who can help with that. It will take a few days." "That is fine," I said. "I have waited 40 years for justice. I can wait a few more days." I went back to my motel room that night and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind was racing with everything that had happened. In just 2 days, my entire life had changed. I had gone from being a widow grieving her mother to being a multimillionaire landowner. I had gone from being an ignored wife to knowing the truth about my cheating husband. And I had gone from feeling powerless to feeling more powerful than I had ever felt in my entire life. But I knew this was just the beginning. The hardest part was still ahead. I still had to face Raymond. I still had to decide what to do about Meridian. And I still had to figure out what my new life was going to look like. As I was finally starting to drift off to sleep, my phone buzzed. I had turned it back on just to check messages. There was a new text from Patricia Williams. It said, "Big news, found out what Meridian's backup plan is. They know they can't take the land legally. So Raymond agreed to a different arrangement. He's going to divorce you and claim the land as marital property. His lawyer already drew up the papers. He's planning to serve you the moment you get home." My eyes went wide. Raymond was going to divorce me and try to take my land as part of the settlement. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. This man had laughed at my inheritance. He had called it worthless garbage. And now that he knew what it was really worth, he was going to try to steal it from me through divorce court. Not if I got there first. I grabbed my phone and called Patricia. It was late, but she answered on the second ring. "I need to file for divorce," I said, "tomorrow before he does." "Already ahead of you," Patricia said. "I have a lawyer friend in Atlanta who specializes in divorce cases. She is the best in the state. I already told her about your situation. She is ready to file first thing in the morning." "How do I pay for all of this?" I asked. "I do not have access to my own money anymore. Raymond controls everything." Patricia chuckled. "Mrs. Mitchell, you own 32 acres of land worth over $20 million. Any lawyer in the country will take your case on contingency. They know they will get paid eventually. She was right, of course she was right. I was not poor anymore. I was not powerless anymore. I was not the same woman who had let her husband walk all over her for 40 years. I was something new, something stronger, something dangerous. Set up the meeting, I said. I am driving back to Atlanta first thing in the morning. Perfect, Patricia said. And Mrs. Mitchell, get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. I hung up the phone and lay back down, but I did not close my eyes. I just stared at the ceiling, thinking about everything that was coming. In 48 hours, my husband had laughed at my inheritance. And now, 48 hours after that, I was about to become one of the richest women he had ever known. But Raymond did not know any of this yet. He thought he was ahead of me. He thought he was smarter than me. He thought he was going to serve me divorce papers and take everything I had. He was in for the surprise of his life. And the best part, he still had no idea that I knew about Cheryl. He had no idea that I knew about the stolen money. He had no idea that I knew about his secret meetings with Meridian. Raymond Mitchell thought he was playing chess with a fool, but he did not realize that the fool had become a queen. And this queen was about to take the whole board. I finally fell asleep that night with a smile on my face. Tomorrow the real game would begin, and I was ready to play. But what I did not know was that Raymond had a few surprises of his own. And the battle for my grandmother's land was about to get much more dangerous than I ever imagined. I woke up before sunrise the next morning. My body was tired, but my mind was wide awake. Today was the day everything would change. Today was the day I would stop being a victim and start fighting back. I packed my bag quickly and checked out of the motel. The woman at the front desk smiled at me as I left. "You have a good day now," she said. "Oh, I plan to," I replied. "I definitely plan to." The drive back to Atlanta took about 6 hours. I used that time to think about everything I needed to do: file for divorce before Raymond could, protect my land, get my money back, and most importantly, make sure that man never hurt me again. Patricia had arranged for me to meet with the divorce lawyer at 2 o'clock that afternoon. Her name was Angela Foster, and according to Patricia, she was the best divorce attorney in Georgia. She had handled cases for senators' wives, business executives, and even a few celebrities. She knew how to deal with men who thought they could cheat and steal and get away with it. I arrived at Angela's office at exactly 2 o'clock. It was in a tall glass building in downtown Atlanta, very fancy, very expensive looking. The kind of place that would have scared me just a week ago, but not anymore. I walked in like I owned the place. Angela Foster was a tall woman with dark skin and silver braids pulled back in an elegant bun. She wore a red suit that made her look powerful and confident. When she shook my hand, her grip was firm and strong. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said, "Patricia told me everything. Please have a seat, we have a lot to discuss." I sat down in the leather chair across from her desk. The office was beautiful, big windows overlooking the city, shelves lined with law books, diplomas and awards covering the walls. "First things first," Angela said. "I need you to understand something. Based on what Patricia has told me, you are in an excellent position. Your husband has been unfaithful. He has moved marital assets without your knowledge or consent, and he is actively conspiring with a third party to steal property that was left specifically to you. In divorce court, these are all very, very bad things for him." "But what about the land?" I asked. "Can he really claim it as marital property?" Angela shook her head. "That is where things get interesting. In Georgia, inherited property is generally considered separate property, not marital property. That means it belongs to you alone, not to both of you. Raymond cannot claim it in the divorce unless he can prove that you somehow mixed it with marital assets." "I never even knew about the land until a few days ago," I said. "How could I have mixed it with anything?" "Exactly," Angela said with a smile. "The land is yours, pure and simple. Raymond has no legal claim to it whatsoever." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. The land was safe. My grandmother's gift was protected. "However," Angela continued, "we still need to move fast. Raymond is planning to file for divorce first. If he does that, he controls the narrative. He gets to make the first accusations. He gets to set the tone for the whole case. We need to beat him to it." "How soon can we file?" I asked. Angela looked at her watch. "I can have the papers ready in 2 hours. We can file by 5 o'clock today. Raymond will be served tomorrow morning." I nodded. Do it. Angela smiled. I was hoping you would say that. Now let us talk about what else we can do. Patricia mentioned that Raymond has been stealing money from your joint accounts. Is that correct? Yes, I said. She said he moved almost $200,000 to a separate account that his girlfriend can access. Angela made a note. We are going to get that money back, all of it, plus interest, plus damages. By the time I am done with Raymond Mitchell, he is going to wish he had never met Cheryl Brooks. For the next 2 hours, Angela and I went through everything. Every detail of my marriage, every account Raymond had access to, every lie he had ever told me. I signed papers, I made statements. I gave Angela permission to access all of our financial records. By 5 o'clock that evening, the divorce papers were filed. I was officially suing Raymond Mitchell for divorce on grounds of adultery and financial misconduct. Angela walked me to the door of her office. Go home, she said. Act normal. Do not let Raymond know that anything has changed. Tomorrow morning, a process server will deliver the divorce papers to him. I want to see the look on his face when he realizes you beat him to it. I drove home slowly. My heart was pounding the whole way. I had not seen Raymond in days. I did not know what I would say to him. I did not know how I would look at him without screaming. But I remembered what Angela said. Act normal, do not let him know. I pulled into the driveway around 7 o'clock. Raymond's car was there. The lights were on in the house. Everything looked the same as it always did, but nothing was the same. Everything had changed. I took a deep breath and walked inside. Raymond was sitting in his recliner, watching television. He barely looked up when I came in. You're back, he said. How was your aunt? She is fine, I said. Just needed some time with family after Mama passed. Raymond grunted. Well, I hope you got it out of your system. I need you to cook dinner. I have not had a decent meal in days. I wanted to throw something at him. I wanted to scream in his face. But I kept my voice calm and steady. I will make something in a little while, I said. I need to unpack first. I went upstairs to our bedroom and closed the door. I sat on the bed and took several deep breaths. Just one more night of pretending. Tomorrow, everything would be different. I made dinner that night. Baked chicken, rice and gravy, green beans. Raymond ate without saying thank you. He ate without even looking at me. He just shoveled food into his mouth while watching some sports game on television. I watched him eat and thought about all the years I had wasted on this man, all the meals I had cooked, all the clothes I had washed, all the sacrifices I had made. And for what? For a man who cheated on me, for a man who stole from me, for a man who laughed at my grandmother's gift and called it garbage. What are you looking at? Raymond asked suddenly. I realized I had been staring at him. Nothing, I said, just tired. Then go to bed, he said, and stop staring at me like that, it is creepy. I cleaned up the kitchen and went upstairs. I lay in bed but I did not sleep, I just waited for morning, waited for the process server to arrive, waited for Raymond's world to come crashing down. The sun came up around 6:30. I heard Raymond get up and go downstairs. I heard him making coffee. I heard him turn on the morning news like he always did. Then I heard the doorbell ring. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. Raymond Mitchell, a voice asked. Yeah, that is me, Raymond said. Who are you? You have been served, the voice said. There was a moment of silence. Then I heard Raymond's voice, confused and angry. What is this? What the hell is this? I walked downstairs slowly. Raymond was standing in the hallway holding a stack of papers. His face was red. His hands were shaking. Gloria, he said when he saw me. What is this? These papers say you are divorcing me. I walked past him into the kitchen. I poured myself a cup of coffee. I took a sip and looked at him calmly. That is correct, I said. I am divorcing you, Raymond. He stormed into the kitchen after me. You cannot divorce me. I was going to divorce you. I have papers drawn up. I know, I said, but I filed first. Raymond's face went pale. How did you know? Who told you? I took another sip of coffee. Does it matter? The papers are filed. It is done. Raymond threw the papers on the kitchen counter. This is ridiculous. You cannot do this. I am your husband. A husband who has been sleeping with Cheryl Brooks for 7 years, I said calmly. A husband who stole $200,000 from our savings. A husband who was planning to take my inheritance and leave me with nothing. Raymond's mouth fell open. He looked like a fish gasping for air. How do you know about Cheryl? He stammered. I know everything, Raymond, everything, and so does my lawyer, so does the court, and soon so will everyone we know. Raymond grabbed the edge of the counter like he was trying to keep himself from falling. Gloria, listen to me. We can work this out. I can explain everything. There is nothing to explain, I said. You cheated on me, you stole from me, you tried to take my grandmother's land, the land you laughed at, the land you called worthless garbage. Raymond's eyes went wide. The land, you know what that land is worth. I smiled. Oh yes, I know exactly what it is worth, and you will never see a penny of it. Raymond's face twisted with rage. That land is marital property. I have a right to half of everything. No, you do not, I said. Inherited property is separate property in Georgia. My lawyer already checked. That land belongs to me and me alone. You have no claim to it. Raymond slammed his fist on the counter. This is not over, Gloria. I have lawyers too. I will fight this. I finished my coffee and set the cup in the sink. Fight all you want, Raymond, but you are going to lose. You have already lost. I walked past him and went upstairs. I could hear him yelling behind me, but I did not care. I went into the bedroom and started packing a bag. I was not going to stay in this house with him, not anymore. My phone rang. It was Angela Foster. The papers have been served, she said. How did he take it? About as well as you would expect, I said. He is downstairs screaming. Angela laughed. Good, let him scream. It will not change anything. Now I need you to listen carefully. Do not engage with him anymore. Do not answer his questions. Do not argue with him. Just leave the house and stay somewhere safe until things calm down. I am packing a bag right now, I said. Perfect, I have booked you a room at the Ritz-Carlton downtown. Everything is paid for. Stay there as long as you need to. The Ritz-Carlton, I asked. Angela, I cannot afford that. Mrs. Mitchell, Angela said, you own land worth over $20 million. You can afford anything you want. Now go, get out of that house. And call me if Raymond tries anything stupid. I finished packing and headed for the door. Raymond was waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs. Where do you think you are going? He demanded. Away from you, I said. You cannot just leave. We need to talk about this. I looked at him, this man I had given my whole life to, this man who had never loved me, this man who had used me and lied to me and stolen from me. There is nothing to talk about, Raymond. I am done talking. I am done cooking your meals. I am done washing your clothes. I am done being invisible in my own home. I am done. I walked past him and out the front door. He followed me onto the porch. Gloria, Gloria, come back here. I got in my car and started the engine. Raymond was still yelling, but I could not hear what he was saying. I did not care what he was saying. I backed out of the driveway and drove away without looking back. The Ritz-Carlton was like a dream. My room was on the 25th floor with a view of the whole city. The bed was softer than anything I had ever slept on. The bathroom had a marble tub big enough for 3 people, and everywhere I looked there were fresh flowers. I stood at the window and looked out at Atlanta spread beneath me. I could not believe this was real. A week ago, I was a retired schoolteacher with a cheating husband and an empty bank account. Now I was standing in a luxury hotel room, about to become one of the richest women in Georgia. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Patricia Williams. Congratulations on filing first. Raymond is panicking. He just made 3 phone calls, one to his lawyer, one to Cheryl, and one to someone at Meridian. They are having an emergency meeting tonight. I read the message twice. Raymond was meeting with Meridian, even after everything that had happened, even after I had told him I knew about his plans. I called Patricia immediately. What is he planning now? I asked. I do not know yet, Patricia said, but I have someone watching him. I will let you know as soon as I find out anything. I hung up and sat down on the edge of the bed. Raymond was not giving up. He was still trying to find a way to get that land. But what could he do? The divorce was filed. The title was in my name. There was nothing he could take from me. Unless there was something I did not know about. I called Angela next. Patricia says Raymond is meeting with Meridian tonight. Is there any way they can still take my land? Angela was quiet for a moment. Legally, no, the title is clear. The land is yours, but Meridian is a powerful company, Gloria. They have lawyers who specialize in finding loopholes. They have money to throw at any problem. We need to be careful. What should I do? For now, nothing, let me handle the legal side, you just focus on taking care of yourself, and Gloria. Yes. Have you thought about what you want to do with the land? Are you going to sell it? I had been thinking about that question for days. Selling the land would make me incredibly rich. I would never have to worry about money again. I could travel the world, I could help my children, I could do anything I wanted. But there was something else I had been thinking about too. Something my grandmother had said all those years ago. The ground beneath your feet is the only thing that cannot be taken from you. I do not know yet, I told Angela. I need more time to think. That is fine, she said, but do not wait too long. Meridian is not going to wait forever, and the longer they wait, the more desperate they are going to get. That night I ordered room service for dinner. A steak medium rare, a baked potato with all the toppings, a glass of red wine, the most expensive chocolate cake on the menu. I sat by the window and ate while watching the sun set over the city. For the first time in 40 years I was alone, really alone, and it felt wonderful. My phone rang around 9 o'clock. It was a number I did not recognize, but something told me to answer. Hello. Mrs. Mitchell, it was a man's voice, deep and smooth. My name is Charles Wright, I am the CEO of Meridian Industrial Group. My heart skipped a beat, the CEO himself calling me directly. Mr. Wright, I said carefully, how did you get this number? That does not matter, he said. What matters is that I would like to meet with you, in person, to discuss your property in Mississippi. I do not think that is a good idea, I said. My lawyer has advised me not to speak with anyone from Meridian. I understand, Charles Wright said. But I am not calling to threaten you or pressure you, Mrs. Mitchell. I am calling to make you an offer, a very generous offer, one that I think you will want to hear. What kind of offer? $50 million. I nearly dropped the phone. $50 million, that was almost double what Mr. Henderson said the land was worth. 50 million, I repeated. Cash, Charles Wright said. Wired to any account you choose, all you have to do is sign over the deed. $50 million. I could buy anything, do anything, go anywhere, my children would be set for life, my grandchildren would be set for life. But something did not feel right. Why would Meridian offer so much money? Why were they so desperate? I need time to think about it, I said. Of course, Charles Wright said. Take all the time you need, but Mrs. Mitchell, do not take too long, this offer will not be on the table forever. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there in my hotel room, staring at my phone. $50 million. It was more money than I could have ever imagined. More money than most people saw in 10 lifetimes. But my grandmother had kept that land for 70 years. She had never sold it, no matter how much they offered. She had protected it with her life and passed it down to her children. Why, there had to be something more to this story. Something I did not know yet. Something that made that land worth more than $50 million. I called Patricia Williams. I need you to find out everything you can about my grandmother's land, I said. Not just what it is worth now. Everything. Why did she buy it? Why did she keep it? What is so special about those 32 acres that Meridian is willing to pay $50 million for them? Patricia whistled. 50 million, that is a lot of money, Mrs. Mitchell. I know, and that is what worries me. Something is not right here, I can feel it. I will start digging tomorrow, Patricia said. But this is going to take some time. Are you sure you do not want to just take the money and walk away? I thought about my grandmother. I thought about my mother. I thought about all the sacrifices they had made to protect that land. No, I said, I need to know the truth first, all of it. I hung up the phone and got ready for bed. As I was brushing my teeth, I noticed something strange. There was a piece of paper on the bathroom floor. It must have been slipped under the door while I was on the phone. I picked it up and unfolded it. There was a message written in black ink. Do not trust anyone, not Patricia, not Angela, not Charles Wright. Meet me tomorrow at noon. The Carter Family Cemetery. Come alone. I have information about your grandmother that will change everything. The note was not signed. I read it 3 times, my hands trembling. The Carter Family Cemetery. That was my grandmother's family name. But how did whoever wrote this note know about that? How did they know where I was staying? How did they get into the hotel? And what information did they have about my grandmother? I barely slept that night. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow made me nervous. Someone knew things about me. Someone was watching me, and I had no idea who they were or what they wanted. The next morning, I got dressed and went down to the lobby. I asked the concierge for directions to the Carter family cemetery in Mississippi. He looked at me strangely but printed out a map. "That is about 5 hours from here," he said. "Are you sure you want to drive all that way alone?" "I am sure," I said, "thank you." I got in my car and started driving. I did not tell anyone where I was going, not Angela, not Patricia, not even my daughter Denise. The note had said to come alone, and something told me I needed to follow those instructions. The drive felt longer than 5 hours. My mind was racing the whole way. Who had written that note? What did they know about my grandmother? Was this a trap? I arrived at the cemetery around noon. It was a small, old graveyard on a hill overlooking a valley. There were maybe 50 headstones, most of them worn and faded by time. Wildflowers grew between the grave, birds sang in the trees. It was peaceful, beautiful even. I walked through the cemetery, reading the names on the headstones. Carter, Johnson, Williams, Brooks, these were my people, my ancestors, men and women who had lived and died on this land long before I was born. And then I found it, a grave marker in the back corner of the cemetery. The name on it made me gasp. Josephine Marie Carter, 1921-987, beloved mother, grandmother, and keeper of the land. Keeper of the land. Those words sent chills down my spine. She was an extraordinary woman, a voice said behind me. I spun around. An old man was standing a few feet away. He was tall and thin, with white hair and dark skin weathered by years in the sun. He wore overalls and work boots like a farmer. He was holding a straw hat in his hands. "Who are you?" I asked. The old man smiled. "My name is Joseph Carter. Josephine was my sister." I stared at him. "Your sister, but that means you are my—" "Your great-uncle," he said. "Hello, Gloria, I have been waiting a long time to meet you." I could not believe what I was hearing. I had a great-uncle. My grandmother had a brother. Why had no one ever told me about him? "Why did you send me that note?" I asked. "What do you know about the land?" Joseph Carter looked at me with old, wise eyes. "I know everything," he said. "I know why Josephine bought that land. I know why she kept it secret all these years. And I know why Meridian is so desperate to get their hands on it." He paused, his expression grew serious. "Gloria, that land is not valuable because of where it is located. It is valuable because of what is underneath it." "Underneath it," I whispered. "What do you mean?" Joseph Carter looked around the cemetery, as if making sure no one else was listening. Then he leaned closer to me. "There is something buried on that property," he said. "Something Josephine found when she was just a young woman. Something that could be worth more than all the buildings and warehouses Meridian has ever built." My heart was pounding. What is it? What is buried there? Joseph opened his mouth to answer, but before he could say a word, we heard the sound of tires crunching on gravel. A car was pulling into the cemetery parking lot. Joseph's face went pale. "We need to leave now, someone followed you here." "What, who?" But Joseph was already moving, hurrying toward the back of the cemetery, where a narrow path led into the woods. "Follow me," he said. "I will explain everything, but right now we need to run." I took one last look at the car pulling into the lot. Through the windshield I could see a man's face. It was Raymond. And he was not alone. My heart nearly stopped when I saw Raymond's face through that windshield, but I did not have time to be scared. Joseph grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the woods. "This way," he whispered. "There is a path that leads to my cabin. They will not find us there." We moved quickly through the trees. I could hear car doors slamming behind us. I could hear voices shouting, but I did not look back. I just kept following Joseph deeper into the forest. After about 10 minutes of walking, we came to a small wooden cabin hidden among the trees. It looked old but well-maintained. Smoke rose from a stone chimney. A rocking chair sat on the front porch. Joseph opened the door and ushered me inside. "We should be safe here for now," he said, "but we do not have much time. Raymond knows you are in the area. He will keep looking." I sat down at a small wooden table, trying to catch my breath. How did he find me? I did not tell anyone where I was going. Joseph shook his head. "There is a tracker on your car, probably on your phone too. Raymond has been watching your every move." My blood ran cold. A tracker. Raymond had been tracking me this whole time. We need to call the police, I said. Not yet, Joseph said. First you need to hear the truth, the whole truth, then you can decide what to do. He sat down across from me and folded his hands on the table. His eyes were sad and tired, like he had been carrying a heavy burden for a very long time. Gloria, what I am about to tell you is a secret that has been kept for over 70 years. Only 3 people have ever known the truth. Josephine, your mother, and me. And now I am going to tell you. I nodded. I am listening. Joseph took a deep breath. Back in 1952, Josephine was working as a maid for a wealthy white family in Jackson. The family's name was Whitmore. They owned banks, factories, land. They were one of the richest families in Mississippi. He paused, his eyes distant with memory. One night, Josephine was cleaning the study when she overheard Mr. Whitmore talking to his lawyer. They were discussing a piece of land that the Whitmore family owned in Coldwater County. Mr. Whitmore said the land was worthless swamp, but his grandfather had always insisted it be kept in the family. The lawyer suggested selling it, but Mr. Whitmore refused. He said his grandfather had hidden something on that land, something valuable, but no one knew exactly where it was or what it was. My heart was beating faster. What was hidden there? Mr. Whitmore's grandfather had been a Confederate officer during the Civil War, Joseph continued. When the South started losing the war, he gathered up all the gold and valuables he could find. Jewelry, coins, gold bars. He buried it all on his land in Coldwater County, planning to dig it up after the war. But he died before he could retrieve it. The secret of where he buried the treasure died with him. I could barely breathe. There is buried treasure on that land. Joseph nodded. The Whitmore family searched for it for generations. They dug holes all over that property. They hired people to look, but they never found anything. Eventually, they gave up. They decided the story was just a legend. But Josephine found it, I whispered. Yes, Joseph said. After she overheard that conversation, Josephine became obsessed with finding the treasure. She was smart, Gloria, smarter than anyone gave her credit for. She studied old maps. She read about the Civil War. She talked to old folks who remembered stories from those days. Joseph smiled at the memory. It took her 3 years, but she finally figured out where the treasure was buried. It was not on the main Whitmore property. It was on a small piece of land next to it. Land that the Whitmores had sold off years ago because they thought it was worthless. The 32 acres, I said. Exactly. Josephine scraped together every penny she had. She borrowed money from family. She worked double shifts for months. And in 1952 she bought that land for $800. I shook my head in amazement. Did she dig up the treasure? Joseph's expression changed. He looked almost guilty. She started to, he said. She found the first chest about 3 feet down. It was full of gold coins, worth a fortune even back then. But then she stopped. Why? Joseph leaned forward. Because Josephine realized something. If she dug up that treasure and tried to sell it, people would ask questions. Where did a black maid get Confederate gold? The Whitmore family would come after her. They would claim she stole it from them. They might even have her arrested, or worse. He shook his head. You have to understand, Gloria. This was Mississippi in the 1950s. A black woman could not just walk into a bank with a chest full of gold coins. She would have been lucky to survive the day. I understood all too well. My grandmother had found a fortune, but she could not touch it, not without risking everything. So she left it there, I said. She left it there, Joseph confirmed. She buried the chest she had found and covered up all evidence of digging. Then she put up a fence around the property and waited. Waited for what? Waited for the world to change, Joseph said. She believed that someday things would be different. Someday her children or grandchildren would be able to claim that treasure without fear. So she kept the land. She protected it. She passed it down through the family. And she made us all promise to keep the secret until the time was right. I sat back in my chair, trying to process everything I had just heard. My grandmother had found buried treasure. Confederate gold worth millions of dollars. And it was still there, buried on my land. How much is down there? I asked. Joseph shrugged. No one knows for sure. Josephine only found 1 chest before she stopped digging, but based on the historical records, there could be anywhere from $5 to $10 million in gold buried on that property. Maybe more. I thought about Meridian's offer. $50 million for the land. Now I understood why they were so desperate. They did not just want the land for their industrial complex. They knew about the treasure. They knew what was buried there. "Does Meridian know," I asked, "about the gold?" Joseph nodded slowly. "That is the part of the story I have not told you yet. About 10 years ago, an old Whitmore family document surfaced at an estate sale. It was a letter from the Confederate officer to his son, describing where he had buried the gold. The letter mentioned the exact location, the 32 acres. He sighed heavily. A Meridian executive bought that letter at the auction. His name was Charles Wright. Charles Wright, the CEO who had called me and offered $50 million. "He has known about the treasure for 10 years, I asked. "Yes, but he could not do anything about it because he did not own the land. Your mother would not sell. No matter how much he offered, she always refused. She was honoring Josephine's wishes. But now that Mama is gone. Now that your mother is gone, Charles Wright sees his chance. He thought he could pressure you into selling. He thought you would not know anything about the land's real value. But when you hired lawyers and started asking questions, he got nervous." Joseph looked at me with serious eyes. "That is when he contacted your husband." My stomach turned. "Raymond is working with Charles Wright." "They made a deal. If Raymond could help Meridian get the land, they would give him $10 million. Raymond agreed to divorce you and try to claim the land as marital property. When that did not work, they came up with another plan." "What plan?" Joseph hesitated. "I do not know all the details, but I know they are getting desperate, and desperate men do dangerous things." As if on cue, we heard sounds outside the cabin. Footsteps, voices, someone was approaching. Joseph stood up quickly. "They found us, we need to go now." "Wait," I said. "I need to call my lawyer, I need to call the police." "There is no time," Joseph said. He grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the back of the cabin. There was a small door hidden behind a bookshelf. "This leads to a tunnel. It comes out about a mile from here near the main road. You can get help there." He pushed the bookshelf aside and opened the door. A dark tunnel stretched out before us. "Come with me," I said. Joseph shook his head. "I am too old and too slow, I will only hold you back. Go find help and Gloria." He pressed something into my hand. I looked down. It was a small leather pouch. "Josephine wanted you to have this," he said. "It is one of the coins from the chest she found. She kept it all these years as proof that the treasure is real." I opened the pouch and looked inside. A gold coin gleamed in the dim light. It was old and heavy, with markings I did not recognize. "Now go," Joseph said, "and do not look back." I hugged him quickly, this great uncle I had only just met. Then I ran into the tunnel. The tunnel was dark and narrow. I could barely see where I was going. I stumbled over rocks and roots, scraping my hands on the rough walls. But I kept moving. I kept running. After what felt like hours, I saw light ahead. The tunnel opened up into a small clearing near a dirt road. I climbed out, gasping for air, covered in dirt and sweat. I pulled out my phone. It had a signal, barely. I called 911 first. I told them where I was. I told them people were chasing me. I told them to send help immediately. Then I called Angela Foster. "Raymond is here," I said. "He is working with Meridian. They know about the treasure." "What treasure?" Angela asked. "There is buried gold on my land. Confederate gold, worth millions. That is why they want it so badly." Angela was silent for a moment. "Gloria, listen to me very carefully. Do not let anyone near that land. Not Raymond, not Meridian, no one. I am going to make some calls. We are going to get you protection." "There is more," I said. "I have proof. A gold coin that my grandmother found, physical evidence that the treasure is real." "Keep it safe," Angela said. "That coin is your insurance policy. As long as you have it, you can prove your claim." I heard sirens in the distance. Help was coming. "I need to go," I said. "The police are almost here." "Stay safe, Gloria. I will handle everything on this end. And Gloria." "Yes. You are about to become a very, very wealthy woman. Just hold on a little longer." The police arrived within minutes. 2 sheriff's cars and an ambulance. I told them everything, about Raymond, about Meridian, about the chase through the cemetery. They took notes and made calls and sent officers to find Joseph's cabin. An hour later, they found Joseph. He was sitting on his porch, calm as could be, drinking a glass of sweet tea. Raymond and 2 men in suits were being held at the edge of the property. The sheriff said they had tried to force their way into the cabin, but Joseph had met them at the door with a shotgun. Raymond was arrested for trespassing and harassment. The two men from Meridian were taken in for questioning. Charles Wright was contacted by the FBI, who had suddenly become very interested in how Meridian had acquired certain historical documents. I spent that night in a small motel near the sheriff's station. I was too tired to drive back to Atlanta, and honestly I did not feel safe going anywhere alone. A deputy sat outside my door all night, just in case. The next morning, Angela called with news. "It is over," she said. "Charles Wright resigned from Meridian this morning. The company is backing away from any claims to your land. They do not want the scandal." "What about Raymond?" "He is in jail awaiting a bail hearing. Based on what the police found on his phone, he was planning to forge documents to transfer the land into his name. That is fraud, Gloria. He is facing serious criminal charges." I felt tears streaming down my face. Tears of relief, tears of exhaustion, tears of joy. "What happens now?" I asked. Angela laughed. Now you go dig up your treasure." 2 weeks later, I stood on my grandmother's land with a team of archaeologists, lawyers, and security guards. We had all the proper permits. We had notified all the proper authorities. Everything was legal and documented. The archaeologists started digging in the spot Joseph had described. 3 feet down, their shovels hit something hard. It was a chest, an old wooden chest bound with iron straps. They lifted it out of the ground and set it on a table. Everyone gathered around. My hands were shaking as I reached for the lid. I opened it. Gold, piles and piles of gold coins. They sparkled in the sunlight like they had been waiting for this moment for over 150 years. But that was just the first chest. Over the next 3 days, the archaeologists found 7 more. Gold coins, gold bars, jewelry, silver. The total value, according to the experts, was over $40 million. $40 million in buried treasure. Plus land worth another $30 million. My grandmother, who had worked as a maid her entire life, had made me one of the richest women in Mississippi. The news spread quickly. Reporters came from all over the country. My story was on every channel. The retired school teacher who found Confederate gold, the woman who outsmarted a corrupt corporation, the grandmother who got her revenge. Raymond saw it all from his jail cell. He watched his ex-wife become famous and wealthy while he waited for his trial. He watched me on television, smiling and happy, talking about my grandmother's legacy. I hope it hurt worse than anything. The divorce was finalized a month later. Raymond got nothing, not a penny. The judge was so disgusted by his behavior that she awarded me everything. The house, the cars, what little was left in our bank accounts after he had stolen from them. I sold the house immediately. I did not want anything that reminded me of him. As for the land, I made a decision. I was not going to sell it. Not to Meridian, not to anyone. Instead, I was going to honor my grandmother's memory. I used some of the treasure money to establish the Josephine Carter Foundation. The foundation would preserve the land as a historical site. It would tell the story of my grandmother, a black woman in Mississippi who found a fortune and had the wisdom to wait until her family could claim it safely. I also set up scholarships for young black students who wanted to study archaeology, history, and law. I wanted to help create a world where no one would ever have to hide their treasure out of fear. The rest of the money I split among my children and grandchildren. Denise cried when I told her how much she was getting. My son Marcus said he was going to quit his job and finally write that novel he had always dreamed about. My other daughter, Lisa, said she was going to open a community center in our old neighborhood. My grandmother's gift kept on giving. As for me, I did something I had always dreamed about, something Raymond had always said was a waste of money. I booked a first-class ticket to Paris. Not just any ticket, a private jet, the most luxurious plane you have ever seen. Leather seats, champagne on ice, a chef preparing fresh meals in a tiny kitchen. It was like a flying palace. As the jet took off from Atlanta, I looked out the window. I could see the city getting smaller below me. I could see the house where I had spent 40 miserable years. I could see the roads I had driven 1,000 times, going to work, going to visit my mother, going nowhere. And then in the distance I saw another plane, a tiny dot in the sky. I smiled. 48 hours after my husband laughed at my inheritance, I was on a private jet to Paris. just like I told you at the beginning of this story. The flight attendant brought me a glass of champagne. I held it up in a toast. To you, Grandma Josephine, I said, keeper of the land. I took a sip and leaned back in my seat. Below me the clouds stretched out like a fluffy white carpet. Above me the sky was endless blue. For the first time in my life I was free. I spent 3 weeks in Paris. I saw the Eiffel Tower. I walked along the Seine River. I ate croissants every morning and drank wine every night. I visited museums and gardens and little cafes where no one knew my name or my story. It was heaven, pure heaven. When I finally came home, everything was different. I bought a beautiful new house in a quiet neighborhood. I hired Patricia Williams to be my personal security consultant. I had dinner with Angela Foster once a week to talk about the foundation and all the good we were doing. And every Sunday I drove out to Mississippi. I visited my grandmother's grave. I sat there for hours telling her about my week, telling her about the foundation, telling her about how her gift had changed everything. You were right, Grandma, I would say. The ground beneath your feet is the only thing that cannot be taken from you. Thank you for remembering that. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for trusting me. One Sunday, about 6 months after everything had happened, I got an unexpected visitor at the cemetery. It was Joseph, my great-uncle. He walked slowly up the hill, leaning on a wooden cane. Beautiful day, he said, sitting down beside me. It is, I agreed. We sat in silence for a while, looking out over the valley. The leaves were changing colors, red and gold and orange, like nature was showing off just for us. I got a letter from Raymond's lawyer, I said finally. He wants me to drop the charges, says he is sorry for everything he did. Joseph snorted. That man is not sorry, he is just scared of prison. I know, I said. I told the lawyer to tell him no. Raymond made his choices, now he has to live with them. Joseph nodded approvingly. Josephine would be proud of you, Gloria. You are strong just like she was. I felt tears prick my eyes. I wish I had known her better. I wish she had told me about all of this when I was young. She wanted to, Joseph said. But she was scared that if too many people knew the secret would get out. Scared that something bad would happen to you. She loved you, Gloria, more than you will ever know. I wiped my eyes and looked at my grandmother's headstone. Josephine Marie Carter, keeper of the land. I am going to keep her legacy alive, I said. I am going to make sure the world knows her story. Joseph smiled. That is all she ever wanted. We sat there together until the sun started to set. Then Joseph patted my hand and stood up. I should get home, he said. These old bones do not like the cold. I helped him down the hill to his truck. Before he got in, he turned to me. Gloria, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? After everything that happened, are you truly happy? I thought about the question. I thought about Raymond and his cruelty. I thought about the years of invisibility and disrespect. I thought about the fear and uncertainty of those first few days after I found the deed. And then I thought about where I was now, free, wealthy, surrounded by people who loved me, doing work that mattered, living a life I had chosen for myself. Yes, I said, I am happy. For the first time in my life I am truly happy. Joseph smiled. Good, that is good. He drove away and I walked back up the hill to my grandmother's grave. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and purple. I knelt down and placed a small bouquet of flowers on the grave. Wildflowers, the kind that grew on her land, the kind she must have seen every day when she was young. Rest easy, Grandma, I whispered. Your secret is safe. Your land is protected, and your legacy will live forever. I stood up and walked back to my car. As I drove away from the cemetery, I thought about everything that had happened, the box of papers, the laughing husband, the private jet to Paris, the buried treasure, the foundation, the freedom. It had been quite a journey, and it had all started with a box that my husband called worthless garbage. He was wrong, so very wrong. That box was not garbage, it was a gift from a grandmother who loved me, a gift that changed my life, a gift that proved something I had always suspected but never quite believed. I was not worthless, I had never been worthless, and now the whole world knew it. My name is Gloria Jean Mitchell. I am 62 years old. And this is the story of how my husband laughed at my inheritance and 48 hours later, I was on a private jet to Paris. But more than that, it is the story of how I found myself, how I found my strength, how I found my freedom, and how I finally got my revenge.